Whether it's a racial crime, whether it's a burglary or a major crime, the normal people to the incident first are the uniformed officers, the frontline troops. What we're trying to instill in all officers is initial investigation is important, and we get them to obtain ownership of the problem.
Our input today from the Racial Incident Unit is basically to make anybody who's not familiar with what the unit does aware of our role. And I'll hand you over to Alati to explain his role as seconded to us.
I actually go out with Mick and Nick now on investigations after an incident's been reported on the street by either an officer of the police or from the council's estate officers or from a race advisor. If it involves council tenants, then there are civil remedies that the council can apply under the tenancy conditions. Sometimes it's a more powerful weapon to have an eviction order over somebody's head rather than a prosecution or a very short prison sentence.
Your role being from a local authority, are you restricted to dealing with council tenants? Is there any action you can take when an incident involves, private owners or other tenants?
In fact, yesterday there was an incident involving a shopkeeper. They were being racist towards customers coming in, and I made some inquiries and the shop was actually leased from the council. So the council can take action on cases where perhaps we've leased properties on a commercial basis to people. But also, generally, the council has a responsibility under the Race Relations Act anyway for peace and harmony within the community. So even though they may not have direct powers, they can influence and put pressure on various groups or an individual to behave themselves.
Our investigation of racial incidents is totally based on the Metropolitan Police definition, where it has a racial motivation. That motivation can be perceived by the person who's the victim, the officer who's actually reporting the incident is called to it and sees or perceives that it is racially motivated attack or crime, or any other third party that you come across when you attend the scene of an incident.
We've come from the patrolling element of the police, so they know us and we hope that they can relate to us. As we pursue our investigations, we gather a lot of information about feelings on the ground as such, vulnerable addresses or potential situations where they will need to be made aware that they're approaching an address or an area where there is unrest. The people who are committing the racial type crimes may well be anti-police as well, and the officers need to be warned. So there's an exchange of intelligence and information over and above the actual reports that they send into us.
We're obviously getting sent to incidents where we might just exchange details. They might say, oh, there's no actual crime committed, and we just give advice or whatever. Are you saying to us that you want to know about those incidents as well? Or do you want us to just make a crime sheet, even if we've got no offence as such?
If you've put the sheet in, even for information purposes only, if you put it in as racial incident, name calling over ball and back garden, for information only, we will look at it, log it, it'll go into our system, and then if we get another call or anybody asks about it, we're already aware that there is a problem there. But we will then also let the intelligence unit downstairs know that if there's a potential assault situation there, for other officers on a different shift that might go there, if there's a potential situation there that they're going to be involved in assaults or whatever, then we can feed that through the system.
If these people ask us, we can refer them to you then. We'll say, well, we will make a note of it and it will obviously go to yourselves.
And if they want to contact us...
And then exactly, that's what I'm saying.
The police may not have powers to actually do anything in those circumstances, but if that information through the unit can be used by the local authority in a civil action where the evidence requirement is much lower, then it gives us a picture of what's been happening over a period of time. So it's important to actually log those calls. Up until now, when a case was reported to either the police or the council, the police would go and do their own investigation and the council would do their own investigation. There was never an overlap. Hopefully, by me being in this unit, there's going to be an exchange of information.
You're talking about any incident whatsoever that has a racial motive to be reported on a crime sheet. Obviously, when there isn't a crime, and there isn't any suggestion of a crime, but something's happened with a racial background or a racial motive, what sort of action can you take?
We can visit both the victim, if you like, or the person who perceives himself as a victim, and the perpetrators, the neighbours or whatever. And as Walati has said, there are various other agencies that we can refer them to as police or as the local authority. And there's numerous. If you look at our notice boards in our office, there's so many self-help groups, professional groups, and just by mediation, ourselves or referring to another agency, mediate between the aggrieved parties and resolve. And in a lot of cases we do. That's why I emphasised before, if the incident happens and you immediately think the way that we've all been trained, what evidence have I got to substantiate a crime, and we haven't got a crime, commit it to the crime sheet. And
it's a very fine line as to what is committed to a crime report and what is intelligence, for example. But we try and communicate with them on their regular training days and get feedback from them.
With regard to you getting information, you're saying put that on a crime sheet. Isn't that then going to have the effect that it's going to show that Plumstead, as a division, has got a very high amount of racial incidents?
Even though the actual numbers may seem higher because you're reporting every incident that has a racial connotation to it, at the end of the day, the statistics are separated, and you'll see, you know, X number of crimes, X number of burglaries, which has a racial connotation, criminal damage, or minor incidents.
I can come in on that and say that if we get a sheet that we decide there's no criminal offence, we actually put the sheet in as logged, and it doesn't get a racial incidents number, where we're fully investigating as a racial incident. So they're actually, if you like, separated out, so it doesn't actually affect the figures of the incidents that we investigate.
We ourselves, through our own in-house training, are making everybody aware that the problem of racial crime is a problem that is all owned by ourselves as a police station.
We will attempt to communicate with the victim within 24 hours and then carry out the investigation, because we feel that the investigation has to be done soon after the incident, when details of the incident are fresh in your mind, witnesses can be spoken to, whereas if you leave it after 3 or 4 or 5, 6 weeks, people are not interested because it loses momentum. So it's very, very important that this joint visit is done at a very early stage.